Hello and welcome back to another installment of a BCSC in action. This time we sat down with Dr. Roberts at Busy Bees Preschool to have a long conversation about pre-K education, winter weather, athletics, and other events impacting our school and your students.
So we're here at Busy Bees Academy interviewing Dr. Roberts, who has a few things that have been happening in the school board we kind of want to talk about.
Yes.
So one of the things I heard was recently the school board went through a reorganization a week or two ago. To be uninitiated, I have no idea what that is or what it entails. So could you enlighten me?
I can, Alex. By state statute, our school board in January of each year has to reorganize, and what that means is they will name new officers, perhaps. They will decide various appointments to committees, organizations within the community, both school committees, other councils, and again community organizations or entities that they have an appointment to. And then we have an oath of office for new members. And so this particular year, we had James Persinger is being added to our school board. So on that first night, first board meeting of the month, James was sworn in. Jeff Caldwell and Pat Bryant were also re-elected to the board. And so they have also taken their oaths of office. And so we'll kick it off for 4-year terms in all 3 of those cases. From an officer perspective, we did change officers. And so Dr. Jill Shedd was our president a year ago. Rich Stinner is our new president. Vice president was Rich Stinner before, will now be Jeff Caldwell. And then our secretary before was Polly Verbanek, and our new secretary is Kathy Dayhoff-Dwyer. So we have a set of new officers, 3 of them, that we have in place. I already referenced the appointments and so forth. Additionally, what they will look at is setting the meeting dates, locations, times for school board meetings. And that has to be done by the end of January, again by state statute. And so at that first meeting, and we have basically 2 meetings per month, I proposed as the new superintendent and in consultation with our cabinet, maybe going to just 1 meeting per month on a regular basis. And that sounds like, wow, that's pretty different. You have 2 meetings per month, you're going down to 1, you're cutting your meetings in half. That's not the case. Is that although we kind of have 2 meetings per month, in a 12-month year we were only having 2 meetings per month 5 times. So the other 7 months we were already doing 1 meeting per month. And so my proposal was just to maintain that consistency, have 1 meeting per month throughout. I thought operationally, perhaps from an efficiency standpoint, it would be more manageable. The board contemplated that and decided to stay with the past practice of having 2 meetings kind of per month, 5 times per year. And in those situations, just felt like it was maybe an additional level of transparency that gave the public at least another opportunity a few times per year to come to a board meeting, express their views, their concerns, and so forth. So we did stay with past practice with that. That's what we're talking about, reorganization of the board. That's what we do. And it honestly sounds great as we're having this conversation. We hear these great joyful sounds of our kids behind us as we are here at Busy Bees Johnson Preschool. Just a neat thing. Thank you for coming out here today, Alex, and having this show in this location.
Indeed. And so speaking of elections, there was also the statewide elections, so new House of Representatives, and I think they started a new legislative session recently.
They did, yes.
So what does that entail for you and some of the Edler educators?
Great question, and hitting on some key points here. So as we get into this new year, the year of 2017, our board had some things to do politically, reorganizing themselves and so forth, and at the State House we have a legislative session that's going on. And this is a long session for us because it goes all the way until the end of April. A long session is the budget year, and so they're setting a budget. That's kind of what takes maybe the most time, is trying to figure out how many billions of dollars we're going to spend over the next couple of years. And from an education perspective, that's very important to us because education in Indiana is the majority of the budget. Over 50% of the budget will go to education in Indiana, K through 12, and then even from a higher learning standpoint, post-secondary education is another 12 or 13%. So you're getting into 60+% of the budget in Indiana is going to some form of education. That becomes very important to us. And so as that session is going on, some very key things we're looking at. And again, great location today because pre-K is one of those things. We have pre-K here in Columbus, but it is a budgetary piece that we have to figure out a way to help pay for because we get no dollars from the state for that. And so the state is very anxious to expand pre-K. pre-K funding. Right now they are spending $10 million per year in 5 counties. Bartholomew County is not one of those. And so we are lobbying, advocating, maybe is a more positive word, to have dollars come to us, more counties in Indiana, to get to perhaps $10 million now. We're looking at $50 million. We'll do a better job for the state of Indiana, and we believe with $50 million we could have up to 10,000 kids 4 years old in the state of Indiana receiving pre-K education. So that's very important to us. From a public education standpoint, I'll also be paying very close attention to vouchers and how those affect us from a public education institution. We'll be looking at funding overall. Both of those things have funding priorities. Funding is important to us and what that formula means. And each kid that we have in our K-12 system in Bartholomew Consolidated Schools, we get a certain dollar amount for. So we're always interested in how that formula is developed and when it is used, what does it mean for Bartholomew Consolidated Schools? So we'll be following funding as well. And then ISTEP. I was on the ISTEP replacement panel last year. We had a bold set of recommendations for the legislature. We're curious to see what they're going to do with those recommendations. Did we spend 7 months working on a set of recommendations that doesn't go very far? So we're hoping it does. And then teacher retention. We're wondering what the legislature can do helping us with teacher, I say retention, recruitment as well. How do we get more youngsters like you to decide to go into the field of education, come into our school system, then once they're there, what are some of the things that we can put in place to make sure they stay in education? We want the best and brightest in Indiana going into education and then coming back to a school system in Indiana and living and working in the state of Indiana. So we're interested to see what the legislature does with those pieces.
Okay, so with the setting in pre-K, if I was still a little bit skeptical about pre-kindergarten, I went through it, I thought it was great, but assuming I'm not 100% on board, what would the kind of quick 30-second or more pitch for pre-K?
And I'm glad you put it that way, Alex, because there certainly are people who maybe don't get it, don't understand, but we look at this, we look at pre-K as an investment in the state and in the future, in that by getting kids started earlier with their education, it makes them more prepared for kindergarten and then for their entire K-12 education and then for all the post-secondary opportunities they're going to have, which is really a necessity today. To get out of the workforce, to have a good paying position and to contribute well to our community, to the state of Indiana, formal education, training is necessary. It doesn't have to be a 4-year degree. A 2-year degree would be nice, or even specific credentials, certifications to get you in the workplace and allow you to do that. We believe that pre-K education is essential to getting that good, solid foundation into the educational system. And with all of that in place, it can contribute to a very productive workforce for the state of Indiana. So we look at it locally, and I think even from the state level, people are looking at this as an investment in the future. I know the governor is interested in moving ahead and having some expansion of the preschool funding. Key legislators that we're aware of also interested in that. And so we would hope that our public who's watching the show today would agree with us that investing in education of our kids here, getting them a start, and when I talk about that, it has to be affordable and high quality pre-K education. Sometimes we have people wanting to take advantage of pre-K, and I don't know what your situation was when you went to school, but maybe they couldn't afford it. And so we have some students being able to afford it and go to preschool, and then they are ready for kindergarten. Other kids just simply can't afford it. And so how do we make sure that as many kids as possible in Bartholomew County have the option to go to an affordable, high-quality pre-K system? We have 1,000 kids that are going to be age 4 in Bartholomew County that we're looking to get into pre-K, and we need all of the providers in our area. I'm obviously speaking as superintendent of Bartholomew Consolidated Schools, and we can accommodate close to 400 of those students. That leaves still 600 kids that are age 4 that need to go somewhere in Bartholomew County for pre-K. So Flat Rock, Hall Creek schools up in the northeast part of our county, private opportunities, faith-based opportunities, there's other entities that are in our community are already serving kids. We need to continue to have them do that to make sure that all 1,000 of our kids in our county have, again, access to affordable, high-quality pre-K situations.
Okay. So if I did want to enroll a child in pre-K, how exactly would I do that right now?
So we're hoping anybody and everybody within our district is interested in enrolling in pre-K. And so what they could first do is go to our website, bcsc.k12.in.us. Go to our website and look for our pre-K program. And we do have opportunities throughout our district. We're in one site right now, but we have 9 elementary schools also that have pre-K in them. So go to our website and/or stop by Johnson Preschool here, pick up a paper application, and turn it back in, and we can make sure that we get students enrolled and in place as quickly as possible. A key note for anybody paying attention is you do have to be 4, the child has to be 4 by August 1st of this year. So if looking to enroll in pre-K in the fall 2017, 2018, you need to be 4 by August the 1st.
Okay. And so would those applications then be turned in at the BCSC headquarters?
To be turned in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
So not the
yeah,
place.
paper applications, and then again can apply online.
Okay, so not the place with the
Yeah.
kids fountain.
Not the place of the kids' fountains, but those are pretty cool, and those are going to be back in place pretty soon. I guess about 5 years ago, since it's 2017 now. In 2012, we had one of our statues stolen, and then the second statue we pulled aside to then recondition. And so here shortly, hopefully this spring, we'll be returning those statues to the fountain, and those are, I think, cornerstones of our community. First of all, art and architecture in Columbus, a really neat thing. Having those statues out by that fountain off of Central Avenue and by our buildings is really neat as well. So we're anxious to get those back into place. And I need to thank Janice Montgomery. Janice, a longtime educator in our system, who was very instrumental in getting behind that project, making sure that once we pulled those away from that pond and that fountain area, it didn't go undone. The task of getting them back didn't go undone. So we are getting them back soon, thanks to Janice and others in our community for being involved in that.
All right, glad to have those back. And pivoting kind of more to things that I guess apply to my life and these kids a little bit more. We're still 2 months away from spring break, but right now it looks like we're probably going to wind up with the full 2 weeks of that.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, seeing there have been no school closings or even delays this year. So can you shed some light on how those decisions have been made?
Yeah, I can. And by the time this particular show airs, Alex, we'll see where we stand, and we'll have a better idea of whether we're going to get those full 2 weeks of spring break. But deciding on whether to go to school for a full day, cancel, go to school, and or delay is an interesting process. And we spend a lot of time making that decision, maybe contrary to what many would believe. I have a team of individuals that are out checking the weather conditions early in the morning. You know, we're after between 4 and 4:30 a.m., making sure that the road conditions are good. Just the conditions environmentally are okay for us to go to school. And our default is to go to school because that's the best thing for our community. It's the best thing for our parents and our kids is to be here for a full day. Because at the end of the day, our objective is to have as much learning take place as possible. Obviously, safety then comes into play, though. If we can't do that, if we can't get to school because of the road conditions or perhaps temperatures come into play, then we have to make a decision to either delay or close. The delay situation will be we see the opportunity where 2 hours is going to make conditions better for us and gives us a real good opportunity to come to school at 10 o'clock a.m. versus 8 o'clock a.m. My position on cold weather, because that's the first one that I heard a lot about. Back in December, we had a pretty cold day. It was approaching 0, wind chill maybe slightly below, and people wondering, gosh, are we going to delay because it's so cold? And I know our weather people might tell us it's dangerously cold, and we have to figure that out. But we look at that in terms of, do our buses start? Do we get all of them started and running and warm? Are our buildings operational? Because it can get so cold that other things break down and perhaps aren't working. But are our buildings open, lights on? Are they heated? And so when we start getting kids in, are we good to go once we're here? Then we think about, we might have some kids walking, we might have some kids waiting on the bus. Is it too cold to do that? Again, dangerously cold. And our take is that it really has to get colder than the temperatures we've seen so far to be dangerously cold. So we believe most of those days when it's just cold weather, we can safely get kids to school and be in a warm environment. Now, a piece that could come into play is if we have some roads that are iffy and it's cold, well then we have a situation where, you know, we have buses out on some iffy roads, we have kids waiting, buses get delayed for one reason or another because of accidents here or there, just traffic gets a little slower, buses have to move slower, and we have kids waiting longer on the bus. That could be a factor. We say, okay, maybe we need to delay, get to some sunlight so the buses can travel a little bit easier, even though it's still going to be cold. Going back to that cold thing, I think if we'd all researched the temperature at 7 a.m., which is kind of the time that kids would be getting on the buses, maybe even a little bit earlier, for an 8 o'clock a.m. start, fast forward that 2 hours to 9 o'clock a.m. and we have kids now getting on the bus for delay, the temperature is not much different. the wind is not much different. So the temperature in the windshield hasn't changed a lot. Additionally, a delay for many of our families becomes a challenge because they're running on a very specific schedule. Many of our families are two working parent families who have to get to work, and so then when they're used to maybe being at home to get a child on the bus, now with a delay day they're not. They're having to get on to work, the child will have to get on the bus themselves. From a breakfast standpoint, we have a lot of kids who rely on us to provide breakfast in the morning. A delay results in many of our schools not being able to do that. We're going almost directly to lunch once kids get in, get settled, and move from there. So besides those pieces, those are other factors that kind of come into play when I'm thinking about a delay situation. Is that a better answer than just going to school on time? But again, there will be situations where we're out on the roads. That team of people I told you, who's covering all of Bartholomew County, we're a pretty large geographical area, checking the roads both north and south and east and west, and letting me know whether or not the roads are in a good enough condition for our buses to get out there and travel on them. At the same time, we're monitoring what other school corporations are doing on those same days. We're monitoring the forecast, the radar. So there's a lot of communication happening, monitoring other situations to finally come up with that decision. And for our buses and how early we have to get our 98 bus routes out, we're trying to make a decision by around 5:15 a.m. Now, we have some leeway with that, but that's our first time that we're looking, okay, can we make a decision now? If not, then we're going to swing that back a little bit. But a lot going into the situation. I always hope, again, that we can go to school if at all possible. When you talk about spring break, we have 5 built-in days if we do need to call off school that we will use. We will make those days up on that second week of spring break, working backwards from Friday. And then past that, if we get to a 6th day, we would do an e-learning day. So without question, we are going to end on that day in May that we've already said we're going to. We're not going to go into the summertime with our schedule, but maybe going back to just some of the opportunities we may have had already to call a delay or maybe cancel school when other schools get around us, and we did not do that. I want to encourage parents that if they're extreme, in their opinion, extreme weather conditions, they're going to reserve the right to keep their child at home if they believe that we have not made a safe decision. And they can make that decision. It would be an excused absence. But I would caution in terms of what extreme means. You know, extreme temperatures doesn't mean 15 degrees. I heard that one day, that we had somebody not send their child to school because it was extremely cold and it was 15 degrees. I'm not sure that's a dangerous or extreme weather condition, but in extreme weather conditions, parents reserve the right because they at the end of the day are making a decision for their child in regards to going to school. The day will be excused and work can be allowed to be made up and those kinds of things. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully we will have a perfect year. No delays, no closings, but those are possibilities. I did hear from a student, Alex, that, and this was a student talking to their parents, telling the mom that, yeah, we are not going to have any closings or delays this year at all. Dr. Roberts has said that. It's up to the parents, period. That's not quite true. If the weather conditions take us that way, we might have a delay or a closing, but I'm hopeful that will not have to be the case.
All right, yeah, and that's definitely been beneficial from a sports and an academic team type of standpoint. So it's the winter season for those. And anything coming up that we should be aware of?
The winter season is moving very quickly, as you're well aware, and as we start to wrap up things, actually, which is crazy, because as we probably air this show, we will be in the midst of most of the IHSAA sectional tournaments. Wrestling will have started, our swimming, both boys and girls. Basketball, girls basketball definitely underway, boys basketball upcoming shortly. So all those things kind of happening, and hopefully we'll be getting a lot of state recognition. We already have a girl from Columbus East who finished 4th in her class in wrestling, and so received a medal there. So that's pretty exciting. We have some plays and musicals coming up here in the spring, and that's coming off the heels of all those performances we had back in November and December. With that note, probably important to note that Columbus North High School, we did have the fire at Columbus North High School's auditorium. That has really changed some scheduling. So weather oftentimes will change scheduling. In this particular case, the fire did that. We are in the midst of getting that facility taken care of. It did end up being quite a costly situation, but insurance is addressing all of it. We had a light fall, so it popped, burnt through the plastic that was surrounding it, fell into some seats, lit some seats. Fortunately, we had a great reaction from the administration at Columbus North High School, able to put that fire out pretty quickly, but the smoke damage was the issue. So some seats burnt for sure, but the smoke damage was extensive. So we have removed the seats. Those are being cleaned. They're going to be put back so we can have a few shows here in the spring at Columbus North. This summer, we will completely replace the seats. They'll be yanked back out, new seats going in. So that auditorium might look kind of like a new place here as we head into the summer and into next year. So Columbus North Band, I do need to mention as well. They had the opportunity to participate in the inauguration parade. I believe it was just a tremendous experience for them. The inauguration, regardless of where you are politically, is one of the things that as a nation we do better than any other country. Every 4 years we have a peaceful transition of power, and to be able to have our kids participate in that historic situation was really neat for the large group of kids from Columbus North. Many of their parents able to attend as chaperones. Some of our staff members. Our kids are having a great time back here, Alex.
Indeed.
Again, just a great backdrop for us here as we have our show today. It's really exciting. But again, our Columbus North kids benefiting greatly. I've heard some awesome stories as they've now returned back to their school and getting after it. Just a neat opportunity for them. So glad they were able to go and had a wonderful trip. So always busy and happening, but again, from a sports standpoint, if you're paying attention to the shows being aired, make sure and follow the schedules because it's IHSAA tournament time, and I'm sure both of our teams at North and East will fare very well.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Alex.
And thank you for Busy Bees
Yes,
for letting us
awesome. We appreciate that greatly.
Indeed.
We hope you enjoyed your conversation with Dr. Roberts, and hopefully BCSC in Action has helped answer some of the questions about your school corporation. And remember, whether it is planning the future of our facilities, communicating with all of our stakeholders, putting great ideas into practice, and celebrating individual success, you can be sure that is BCSC in Action. Thanks for watching, and be sure to look out for our next installment of BC in Action coming in March.